So yeah, I got some records, and I'm going to show them to you, because that's what I do. First up is the one and only album from Eternal Champion called The Armor of Ire. Great epic metal album. This was followed by a 2017 EP release called Parallel of Death, but we haven't really heard much more recorded-wise from this band over the last few years. Hoping that changes. This is a great band. The album is a cozy 34 minutes, which is really great for me because I think a lot of albums are way too long these days. Basically, I have the attitude of get in, get out, and do your job. And I like that about this album quite a bit. Of course, comparisons to Manowar are going to be made. You might be able to tell that just by looking at this cover. You're also going to hear a little bit of Judas Priest, and particularly Manila Road. I hear a bit of that as well, and maybe some hints of Omen. Power metal and epic metal tend to have a little bit of overlap, so you got that here as well. So this record definitely has that simplistic 80s metal sound in a lot of ways. I think a lot of it's in the production, though a lot of bands do that intentionally. A lot of bands of the new wave of traditional heavy metal want to sound 80s, and I'm fine with that. I mean, look at me. I'm clearly a kid of the 80s. I like the production, regardless of that. I also think this record has a lot of energy to it, and some occasionally thrashy moments, which, of course, I can appreciate. So this is a 2020 repress of the album. Has new custom labels on both sides, and also a different back cover. And, of course, we have the usual insert here with liner notes and lyrics. So this is Eternal Champion with The Armor of Ire. Next up is the debut album from the band Lucifer. This completes my Lucifer collection. I also have Lucifer 2 and Lucifer 3. This one, of course, is named Lucifer 1. Heavy rock band. Great band. This came out originally in 2015. So for those who don't know, this band formed from the ashes of a band called The Oath, fronted by lead singer Johannes Adonis. Great voice, very seductive, easy on the eyes. I might as well mention that as well. She was in The Oath with another girl. She's not in this band. There's some overlap, of course, between Lucifer and The Oath that's worth mentioning. Both sort of harken back to a 70s hard rock sound, a little bit of psychedelic rock specifically, but also some proto-metal. Again, I mentioned the Black Sabbath worship just a little bit there, but really good stuff. I love this band quite a bit. Also here is Gaz Jennings from Cathedral. He might bring a bit of that into this band, if that gives you any idea of what they sound like. Also, there's no real coincidence there because Rise Above Records, which is the label that put out Lucifer 1, is owned by Cathedral vocalist Lee Dorian. So there's definitely some connections there, for sure. So like the last record I mentioned, this is also a 2020 repress. This one this time is on sparkling turquoise vinyl. I don't know if you can really catch the sparkle, but it's definitely there. And it also comes with an insert with the lyrics and this wonderful picture here. So a couple other things about this record. One is they kept the foil emboss here from the original version, which I really liked. Also, this album is one of 666 copies, as it says there on the hype sticker. Limited to 666 copies. Of course it is. So call it a cult rock, or a revival of proto-metal, or just a really heavy album. This is Lucifer with Lucifer 1. Next up is a really cool compilation, came out in 2017, called Pounding Metal, a tribute to Exciter. Exciter, of course, classic Canadian thrash metal band, arguably the first thrash metal band. You can have that fight in the comments, of course. Was it really Metallica, or was it Exciter? You figure it out, of course. Definitely should read the bands off here. We've got Attacker, Evil Invaders, Crystal Viper, Iron Sword, Ranger, Ram, Masters of Disguise, Savage Master, October 31, Visigoth, Gatekeeper, and Vulture. So it's especially nice to see Evil Invaders and Ram on this record, because those are two of my favorite up-and-coming, if you will, bands from the new wave of traditional heavy metal. But I do have some favorites on here. Attacker's version of Cry of the Banshee is pretty great. Savage Master, kill it with Saxons of the Fire. October 31st, do a great version of Stand Up and Fight, probably one of my favorite Exciter songs. And Gatekeeper's version of Victims of Sacrifice, also pretty amazing. I should also mention Feel the Knife from Vulture. Feel the Knife is one of those sort of lesser known and lesser loved maybe songs from this band. It was on an EP of the same name, so it occasionally gets ignored. Real Exciter fans, of course, know that song quite well, and it's just nice to see it here represented on this record. So another fun detail about this record is on the disc label. It says pounding side and metal side, which is classic allusion to Exciter. They did that on their own records as well. Side heavy, side metal, things like that. Also, there is an insert here that talks about all the bands that are on the compilation. So you can find out about all these bands and check out the material, because some of them are pretty great. I listen to a few of these regularly. Ram is definitely one of those bands, and I also love Savage Master, and Visigoth is pretty fun as well. Sadly, the track Pounding Metal, for which this album is actually named, is not on here. No one does a version of that song, which is a shame because that's one of my very favorite Exciter songs. But I guess if I would imagine a band that could do that justice, maybe Eternal Champion, as I mentioned them earlier, maybe Hazard, maybe High Command. I think all those bands would do really respectable versions of Pounding Metal. If you've got a band that you think would do it, let me know in the comments. Kind of fun to talk about that. Of course, the cover art is pretty awesome, reminiscent, of course, of Long Live the Loud, that Exciter album and its cover. Fantastic. Definitely recommend it if you're a fan of Exciter, but maybe also of some of these modern bands to hear what their take is on these classic tracks. Definitely check this one out. This is Pounding Metal, a tribute to Exciter. Next up is the most recent album from Watain called Trident Wolf Eclipse. Came out 2018. This is the 6th studio album for this Swedish black metal band. It follows The Wild Hunt, which was a rather controversial album. It had some rock roots. It wasn't a part of that definitive Watain sound. I think going back to a more raw and aggressive sound on this record, the band might have been banking on trying to get some of those fans back. Maybe so, maybe not. Maybe it'll do that. Maybe it won't. Who knows? So the album got mixed reviews when it first came out, from critics, but also from fans. Some of the more positive comments, I guess you could say, are, it's a good album, but not great, which is kind of positive. Some of the more negative complaints are from people who didn't want the band to change. So there's that. The other gripe, of course, is that this album is a bit short. Might be even their shortest album. I'm not really sure, but I don't know if that's really a complaint. I like shorter albums. I come from an era where most albums were 35 minutes long, or to 40 minutes long, so I'm not going to bitch about that. Of course, if you're interested in checking them out, both hearing the music and seeing them, because black metal bands are, as we know, visual, there's a music video for Nuclear Alchemy. You should definitely check that out. Also, the vinyl here is limited edition gold vinyl. Looks like that. And there is an insert as well. More especially, there is a booklet for this album, which is pretty decent. It's a very short booklet, but there it is. And picture of the gents on the back. And nice art on the back cover. There you go. So this might not turn me into a black metal fan necessarily. I'm not really big on that genre. I'm trying to get into it. We'll see if this record does it. The first spin of this was pretty decent. I think I do need to spend some more time with it, but, you know, we'll see what happens. Anyways, this is Watain with Trident Wolf Eclipse. Next up is the Seattle speed metal band called Solicitor. It's speed metal, of course, as I said, with elements of traditional metal, but also some thrash. It also clocks in at 39 minutes, which is perfect. So some occasional nods to Agent Steel here. I mean, the singer literally says the line "unstoppable force," and says it in that tonality that reminds you a little bit of Agent Steel. Speaking of whom, I didn't know this until I checked the liner notes, but the singer is female, which is pretty cool. I definitely hear some allusions to Chastain. I'm thinking Leather Leone in some respects, but the vibrato in her voice, really strong and powerful. Gives me a little hint of Sabotage, for those who are familiar with that band. Definitely not wimpy. She's really killer on this record. My copy here is the second press in red translucent vinyl. It was limited to 500 copies. This label, actually a really nice red, to be honest. And it does come with an insert as well. Get the lyrics and a great picture of the band. And, of course, the back cover. So after hearing this, I'm definitely motivated to get their 2019 EP. It's available at their Bandcamp site. So I'm definitely going to go over there and go get that because this is a really incredible band. I like the speed metal offerings from this band in particular. I think the EP is a little more speed than this album is, but definitely excited about this band. Definitely want to hear more from them and can't wait for a new album. This is Solicitor with Spectral Devastation. So changing gears a little bit, this is Dokken with Beast from the East. This is their first live album, released in 1988, recorded in Japan, as you can imagine. This album really does mark the classic era end for this band. They put out 4 great studio albums before this. I think this live album is really the high point. It's a great live album, and I think it's a good way to end the classic era of this band. I don't think they planned on breaking up right after this album necessarily, but if you're going to listen to this band, you should definitely sort of maybe start with this album. I don't know, maybe Tooth and Nail, but classic stuff from this band. Great tracks. Particularly interested in the studio track Walk Away. They did a studio track at the end of this otherwise live album, kind of like Kiss did with Alive 2, except they just did one song. What's cool about the vinyl version of this album is that it actually has 3 tracks that the CD doesn't. The songs are Standing in the Shadows, Sleepless Night, and Turn on the Action. Turn on the Action is a great song, great deep cut for this band. It's interesting, they're also not on the Spotify and Apple Music versions of these albums, the streaming versions, so getting the vinyl actually is a good thing to do. It's another reason to get vinyl, and I can't come up with enough of those, obviously. So the live performance of this record is pretty great, especially from George Lynch, their guitar player. He's an amazing guitar player. He's really the shining star in this band a lot of times. Also, you should know that this album did get nominated for a Grammy back in 1990 for Best Metal Performance. It lost out to Metallica for their track One, which is right, you know? I mean, Metallica is more metal than Dokken. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to argue that with me. The gatefold's pretty cool. A big Japanese flag there. Yeah, also this is a promo copy. You can see the promo stamp here. And what I'd also like to show you, because it is a promo copy, is that I have, as soon as I find it, and yes, there it is, I have a press release letter from Elektra Records that came with it that explains the live album. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll just do the ender here. The 17-track collection both looks back and expands upon Dokken's 5-year career and their first 4 studio albums previously released on Elektra. Beast from the East includes full-length concert versions of Dokken favorites like Unchain the Night, Tooth and Nail, and Breaking the Chains. Mr. Scary is a 7-minute showcase for the guitar genius of George Lynch. Walk Away is a strong new studio cut written by Don Dokken, Jeff Pilson, and Lynch. Beast from the East was produced by Dokken and ace sound engineer Angelo Arcuri. All cuts are mixed by Michael Wagner, who also did the honors on Back for the Attack. So, nice little addition. I found this record in my local record store, and got it for a cheap price, too. I didn't pay much at all. But this little letter was definitely the gem. Really excited to get it for that. But also, it's a good live album. Yeah. So Beast from the East definitely represents Dokken pretty well in terms of the live performance, but also the track selection. I think they really did pick the best of the best. Anyways, this is Dokken with Beast from the East. Next up is an album that's no doubt on a lot of people's top 10 list of 2020 albums. This is Havok with their 5th studio album entitled 5 or V, take your pick. So as many know, Havok is an American thrash metal band, one of the best of the modern breed in my opinion, and of the opinion of many other people as well. The cover art, we should talk about that of course. It's done by Eleron Cantor. You might recognize his artwork from covers from bands such as Testament, My Dying Bride, Sodom, Soulfly, Hate Eternal, lots of other bands. Mostly Testament though. He did the artwork for Titans, he did it for Brotherhood, he did it for Dark Roots. So if this looks a bit familiar, the style, that's where you've seen it before. It's fairly conspicuous. So the tracks here are intricate, but definitely still aggressive and quite a variety too. This is not your typical thrash metal album, either of the classic era or of now. There's lots to get into in this album. Yeah, definitely. The vinyl color here is sea glass, whatever the hell that means. It does come in a number of vinyl variants, this particular title. Also, it comes with a poster, two-sided poster actually. You got that side, and you got that side, which is kind of the same thing, isn't it? I also get an insert here with lyrics and more lyrics. I can drop things. It's my show. Unfortunately, the thing I didn't get was a patch. I guess it came with other editions of this album. I didn't get that one. But I got the Sea Glass, which I think might be an indie record store exclusive. Not sure, but yeah, let's say it is, because I'm pretty sure of that. I haven't heard a lot of Havok, other than this album, maybe a few other tracks, but I do hear this one's really high up on the list. A lot of fans are really excited about this album. I'm excited about this album. It's probably going to make my top 10. I can't imagine it won't. But I'm definitely going to look into more material from Havok. Definitely a great album. Anyways, this is Havok with 5, or V. Next up is a compilation album from the band Carcass. It's called Choice Cuts. Great cover, right? Carcass, of course, legendary band on the early Earache Records label. They've made music from grindcore to melodic death metal. They've had a number of phases, of course. This 2 LP set covers that, from Reappear to Swan Song and all the EPs and LPs in between. I should explain a little bit of backstory about this record. It originally came out in 1999 as a promo CD. It was in one of those little cardboard sleeves. It was released for radio stations and the like. But then what happened was one of the members got sick, and for some reason that delayed the commercial release of this album until 2004. And it came out on CD again then, but for the commercial market. This vinyl issue is from 2015, from Earache Records, again, obviously. The second record is really cool, too. It's not so much a greatest hits album. It's the Peel sessions from 1989 and 1990 that they recorded for John Peel. Of course, you want to know more about that, you should watch my Earache Peel sessions video I did 2 or 3 weeks back. You should definitely check that out after you finish watching this one, of course. Of course, as I mentioned, this is a reissue. Some are released in 2015, some were released in 2016, so it's kind of hard to figure which is which. But this came out on red vinyl, right here. Cool custom labels. And the inner sleeves are kind of fun. They are looking like that. Also, the album does have a gatefold. Right there, and the back. So limited to 500 copies in red. It also came out in green. I think that was 300 copies. And then there's an undisclosed number of black vinyl copies out there. But you can find it. It's on the Earache website. It's everywhere. As for track selection, it's excellent. There's some great stuff on here. Some of my favorites are Corporal Jigsaw Quandary, Incarnated Solvent Abuse, tons of great stuff. Love this album. Someone put this together the right way. I definitely want to thank Marc G with a C. He's a fellow vinyl community guy. He does metal stuff on YouTube just like I do. He's into the heavier stuff, of course. Carcass is obviously right up his alley. He's the one who showed me this record. He's the one I found out about it from. So thank you, Marc. And for you folks out there, if you want to see his channel, I'll put a link in the description of my video so you can go to his channel and check out his stuff. If you've never heard Carcass before, I would highly recommend this compilation. It really does live up to its name. It is Choice Cuts. And lastly, the latest release from Triptykon with the Metropole Orchestra, which is an orchestra from the Netherlands. This is obviously 2020. The album is called Requiem. It's a live album and has a rather complicated story. I'm going to try to do my best to explain it. So Requiem is a 3-part composition written by Celtic Frost founder Tom G. Warrior, also of Triptykon, obviously. Part 1, Rex Irae, appeared on the Celtic Frost album from 1987 called Into the Pandemonium in studio form. Part 3 of this, which is called Winter, is on Celtic Frost's Monotheist album, also in studio form. But he never wrote the second part. He finished it up in 2018. It's called Grave Eternal. And he decided to take all 3 parts and perform them live with an orchestra and with Triptykon. So that's the story of Requiem. It's pretty interesting. It took a long time to write, apparently. In case you've never heard of Metropole Orchestra, that's the orchestra in the background, or in the foreground, take your pick. They've been around since 1945. They're from the Netherlands, as I mentioned. They've also won multiple Grammys, so kind of impressive. Yeah. So there are 2 versions of this album. There's a super deluxe version that comes with a CD, a DVD, a 12-inch record, a 7-inch record, and then an art book. And I think the art book is probably the focus of that edition. This one's pretty nice too. Comes with a number of things. I should point out the vinyl first. It is in magenta, a very nice magenta. Also, a number of other things in here. There is a rather nice full-color booklet that discusses Requiem itself, the performances. There are lots of pictures of the orchestra and the making of it. Lots and lots of pictures. You can see the crowd. That was pretty immense. I believe they only performed this once, so it's pretty amazing. Yeah. This version also comes with a DVD, which I'm going to show you shortly. I just want to get through the rest of these pictures here. And look at that. Amazing. The DVD, of course, is here. I highly recommend getting this at least for the DVD, so you can watch it actually being performed, moving beyond belief. Just an amazing performance. It also came with a couple posters that are very much worth showing. There is the artwork there. Just amazing, amazing stuff. And the other poster is right there. Good stuff. The music on this record definitely takes on a lot of styles. It's cinematic in a lot of ways. It's definitely orchestral, as I would mention there. It's gothy, it's progressive, it's definitely metal. Tom might call it avant-garde. He's used that term a lot over the decades, even for Celtic Frost, so maybe throw that one into the mix as well. Since I obviously don't know you, the viewer, I don't know if you'll really like this. It might not be up your alley, but I'm definitely the audience for this. I love this. Fell in love with it instantly the second I heard it, even more so watching the DVD. You should definitely check this out. There's a trailer on YouTube that promotes the video performance, so you should check that out and see if you like it. This is Triptykon with the Metropole Orchestra, and the album is called Requiem. And that's it for another episode of Vinyl Haul. Definitely, if you like this video, give it one of these. Also, subscribe if you haven't, and definitely share the video with a few of your friends. I'm sure you've got metal friends. You have to have metal friends. You're watching this. Also, let me know in the comments which albums you liked, which ones you didn't like. Also, as always, music suggestions for me. Some of these bands I've only heard one album from. Maybe you can tell me the next album I should listen to. Havok comes to mind, but some of the other bands as well. Definitely let me know all of that in the comments below. Also, I want to take some time to plug a friend's show. My buddy Dave Wallace has a new program on the YouTube. It's called Medal of Honor. That's metal as in this right here. Definitely check out his channel. I'll put a link of it in the description of my video. Go there, give him a like, give him a subscribe. Do it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.